Hi, my name is Janet Davis, and I'm here to present work started last summer with my undergraduate research assistant, Buyaki Nyatichi. Just Not Sorry is a Gmail plugin designed by and for women business leaders. As you type, it underlines words that could weaken your message as if they were misspelled. For each underline, a tooltip displays an explanatory quote, prompting you to choose different words. I first encountered Just Not Sorry in a survey of technologies designed to influence speech and writing. Just Not Sorry stood out for three reasons. First, I was intrigued by the intention to support women's power in the workplace. Second, I was intrigued by the apparent tension between the supported values. Women's equality on the one hand, but individual achievement and power on the other. Third, I was surprised by strong reactions to the concept of Just Not Sorry. And so Buyaki and I set out to try to understand this controversy. Since gender is clearly relevant, we realized we needed to learn more about feminism. In the Feminist Foundations of Language, Gender, and Sexuality Research, Mary Buchholz defines feminism as a diverse and sometimes conflicting set of theoretical, methodological, and political perspectives that have in common a commitment to understanding and challenging social inequalities related to gender and sexuality. This definition let us refine our research question. Could conflicting perspectives on gender equality explain the controversy around Just Not Sorry? Buchholz describes a hierarchical relationship among these sometimes conflicting perspectives. I will touch on each perspective later as it becomes relevant in the results. That was the background, and now on to our methods. Buyaki and I found that many opinions had already been written about Just Not Sorry. To expedite our research, rather than conducting interviews, we decided to start with the media. To form our corpus, we searched for popular articles about Just Not Sorry, selecting 26 that appeared in notable English language sources and that expressed the opinions of the author. One article was a conversation between two authors, yielding a total of 27 published opinions by distinct authors. I conducted a qualitative analysis guided by methods described in Lazar, Feng, and Hochheiser, using NVivo as a supporting tool. I was initially sensitized to feminist perspectives as described by Buchholz, to the values in Schwartz's values circumflex, which we saw before, and to the values frequently implicated in computer systems identified by Friedman, Kahn, and Borning. And of course, I was looking for arguments and opinions about Just Not Sorry. Our first question, does the corpus include feminist content? First, we noticed that all but three authors are women, so gender identity is clearly salient. As an aside, when I made the slide, I realized the authors are mostly white women. Two authors, both writing for business publications, do not mention gender at all, and three mention gender only to downplay its relevance. For example, Jenny Erickson writes, "This is an amazing tool, not just for women, but for any people who ever feel the need to talk down about themselves." Only three authors mention feminism or a feminist issue, and just 6 mention gender equality or inequality, the central concern of feminism. But more than half of the authors express sentiments typical of liberal feminism, which seeks equality of women within existing male-defined institutions. It's not surprising this was the most common perspective, since it's become taken for granted in popular culture. Often included in liberal feminism is the claim that women need to change in order to succeed in those institutions. For example, Adeline Ginn writes, "Language is the key element in helping women progress to the top and succeed there. The question is then, how can women change their language to convey confidence?" A side effect of this is that masculine behavior is often held up as a norm or ideal to which women need to conform. For example, Stacey Lestow writes, My high school English teacher, Mrs. Skoog, encouraged us to say and write what we meant with confidence and authority, the way men did. Cultural feminism agrees that men and women communicate differently, but sees feminine communication styles as equal or even superior. For example, Barbara Ellen writes, "Women can be superb, hyper-intuitive people readers and managers. So while the female approach isn't always softer, when it is, let's own it." And some cultural feminists argue that it's not women but men who need to change. For example, Harriet Minter writes, "Let's stop apologizing for being women and instead demand that men behave differently." While cultural feminism is definitely present in the corpus, it's mainly found in just 3 authors' opinions. And if you missed any of that, here's a quick summary of the findings. We see that while liberal and cultural feminism are both represented in the corpus, and there is a significant disagreement between those views, many other feminist perspectives are not represented at all. No authors wrote about gender inequality as the root cause of all oppression. With perhaps one exception, all authors seem to assume a middle class, white, straight audience. And all authors take the gender binary, dividing people into men and women, as a given. In future work, these perspectives might provide fruitful ground for further critiques of Just Not Sorry. So, do these perspectives on gender equality explain differences of opinion about Just Not Sorry? The answer is no, unfortunately not. As we can see, while cultural feminists criticize Just Not Sorry, liberal feminists both support and criticize. The remainder of the results section explores their reasons. In the interest of time, I'll present my conclusions from the discussion. So, what are the disagreements? I found that the authors disagree about 3 main things. First, the value of the intended behavior change. Second, the likely effects of the intervention on the user. And third, the broader implications for gender equality. First, is the intended behavior change valuable? Many liberal feminists, and those who downplay gender, answer yes. It is valuable to use stronger language to enhance one's power and achievement. Some critics even argue that Just Not Sorry doesn't go far enough to remove weak language from our vocabularies. Others say it's good to be more mindful in choosing our words rather than softening our language out of habit. And Lord points out it's good to be more sincere in that the apologies we choose to retain are those we truly mean. On the other hand, some critics argue, no, this behavior change is not valuable. It's better to be polite than to be forceful. And Just Not Sorry ignores differences in social context. For example, when writing to your boss versus a subordinate, or to another woman versus a man. Cultural feminists claim these values as typical of feminine communication styles. Second, will it have the intended effect on the user? Yes. Stronger writing will enhance women's confidence as the developers intended. Or, no, it will undermine women's confidence because it's just one more way in which women are blamed and shamed for their deficient behavior. And finally, will widespread use enhance gender equality? Some say yes, equivocally. It's not much, but it's a step in the right direction. Or it's a good way to tackle the current struggle until we sort out the bigger issues. Others say, no, it misses the bigger issues entirely. As Horobin says, I just don't think an app will help. So in conclusion, I want to point to 3 main contributions of this work. We proposed media analysis as a lightweight tool for empirical value discovery and elaboration. We applied this technique to identify and elaborate upon values implicated by Just Not Sorry, including some avenues for further critique. And finally, we framed key questions for evaluating Just Not Sorry, which may inform future surveys or interviews, and which may also apply to other persuasive technologies. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm Janet Davis. Please contact me with questions or feedback by email or on Twitter.